What's going on, Titans? My name is Aaron Hall. I am a strength coach, and if you are looking to get bigger and stronger, then you are in the right place. So in previous videos, we've learned how to find your maxes. We learned the best rep ranges to build size, rep ranges to build strength, and the ones that will get you both. And we also learned the importance of managing your fatigue so all that training doesn't catch up to you and lead to injury. So in this video, we're gonna learn how to put all that together into a comprehensive program that will allow us to get bigger and stronger. So the very first principle in making sure you're creating a program that's gonna allow you to get bigger and stronger is the principle of progressive overload. Now, progressive overload is the most important principle to make sure you have going in your program. And really all that means is from week to week, session to session, things are getting more difficult. You're adding either sets, you're maybe adding reps, or you're adding weight or intensity to your exercises. Now, you can have a non-existent program, but if you're making sure you're doing progressive overload, then you're gonna still see gains. Maybe not the most efficient or effective gains, but you will see gains. On the other hand, you can have the world's greatest program, but if you're not making sure that things are getting more difficult from week to week, session to session, then you may not be seeing any gain. So that's how important progressive overload is gonna be to creating a program that's gonna allow you to get bigger and stronger. So with progressive overload for size, you'll want to make sure that you're adding volume, you're adding sets, you're adding reps, week in, week out. This is gonna allow you to build size. If your goal is for strength, then you're gonna wanna make sure you're adding intensity. So basically the weights are getting heavier and heavier as your program progresses. So since we can't do progressive overload indefinitely without injuring ourselves, because what that would mean is you're adding sets and reps to every single exercise. Eventually you'll have 1,000 sets, you'll have 1,000 reps with 1,000 pounds, and that's gonna lead to injury before you ever get to that point. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start off on the lower end of the spectrum of the volume or intensity, and we'll slowly, incrementally, as the weeks pass, increase. We'll get to a point where we'll have to do a deload, and then we'll start that cycle over. And we're just gonna go through that cycle round and round and round we go until we get to the size and the strength that we're actually looking for. Now, first with our program, we want to establish a goal. And since we're Titans, we wanna get bigger and we wanna get stronger. That is gonna be the goal of this program. Now, for time's sake, we're just gonna keep it to the chest, right? So we're gonna say we want to build the size of our chest, and we're gonna use the bench press as the method to do that. Now, first, what we're gonna do is break this training down into specific phases. We're gonna start with a phase where we're just purely building size, then we're gonna build size and strength, and then we're gonna focus on just building strength. Now, before we even start these phases, we're gonna at least want to know what our estimated 1 rep max is. If you don't know how to find your estimated 1 rep max, I did do an entire video on that. You can go back to that real quick, figure that out so you can be up to speed here. Now, once we've done our rep max test and we have an estimated 1 rep max, now we have numbers to go off of. Now, before diving into designing this program, you're gonna want to understand a term called reps in reserve. This is basically how close you are to failure. So now remember, when we were discussing the best rep ranges, we're saying they're only effective if you're fairly close to failure or at complete failure. Now, since failure takes so much out of you and it's a lot to recover from, we're not gonna start off right at failure, taking all these sets to failure. So we're gonna start off with 2 to 3 reps in reserve, so about 2 to 3 reps before failure. And then we're gonna start slowly increasing that as the weeks go on. Then we'll get really close to failure, if not all the way to failure on that last week. And then we'll have a deload so we have plenty of time to recover from that intense effort. So let's go ahead and dive right into the first phase of training, which is training for size. And since we're focusing on size for this initial phase of training, we're gonna hang out in that 10 to 20 rep range. If you recall from previous videos, we discussed the best rep ranges for size and strength, 10 to 20 being really good for building size. So we're gonna hang out here. Now, this is where your 1 rep max is gonna come into play. So we're gonna use the number 225. We'll say your 1 rep max is 225. We're gonna start off using 60% of that 1 rep max. So 60% of 225, if you do 225 times 0.6, then you get the number 135. So now that we have the numbers we're gonna use 135 pounds at least to start. We'll start building this size building phase. So we've got week 1, we've got week 2, week 3, and week 4. So as the weeks go, we're gonna increase volume. So week 1, we're gonna do 3 sets. Week 2, we'll do 4 sets. Week 3, we'll do 5 sets. And then on week 4, it's a deload week, so we're gonna bring that down to 2 sets. Now, our best rep ranges for this phase is gonna be around 10 to 20, but we're gonna taper that down. We're gonna say this phase, we're gonna do 10 to 15 reps on each of those sets. Now, we're also gonna increase intensity as we go. So this is where reps in reserve comes into play. For week 1, we're gonna keep 2 to 3 reps in reserve. That's 2 to 3 reps before failure. And then week 2, it'll be 1 to 2 reps in reserve. Now on week 3, we're gonna do the same. We'll do 1 to 2 reps in reserve. With the very last set, we're gonna take that all the way to failure because we have a deload week coming right after that, which is gonna allow us to recover from that intense set there. Now week 4, we've got 2 sets at 10 to 15 reps, but we're gonna go back to that 2 to 3 reps in reserve number. So now that we've got the program outlined, we're gonna talk about how to increase the weights week to week or even set to set if necessary. So remember, our rep range is 10 to 15. If you can do 15 reps at 135 pounds and you're still not at 2 to 3 reps in reserve for that first set, you're just gonna keep going until you hit 2 to 3 reps in reserve, which means on the next set, you're gonna increase the weight. So you can fall within that 10 to 15 rep range and still have the 2 to 3 reps in reserve. Now, if on that first set you can only get to 15 and you're at 2 to 3 reps in reserve, more than likely you're just gonna hang out at that same weight, that same 135 for the rest of the session. However, next week when you get in, you'll definitely want to increase that about 5 to 10 pounds or so if you got all the way to 15 reps on the first set of your first week. So what that looks like on week 2, if you were able to do 135 pounds for 15 reps on your first set on week 1, then when you come in on week 2, you're gonna increase that weight by anywhere between 5 to 20 pounds, depending on how easy that really felt. So it may be the next week you're doing 140 pounds, maybe 145 pounds, could even be up to 155 pounds. This is where you're gonna have to really listen to your body and know what it feels like to be close to failure. Now, if you can't do a full 15 reps at the prescribed intensity at that 2 to 3 reps in reserve on the first week, then week 2, when you come in, you're going to do the same weight until you can do up to 15, and that's when you're gonna be able to increase the weight. And each week, you're gonna follow that scheme. So what it could look like is week 1, you did 135, week 2, you did 145, week 3, you did 155. And remember, on that last set of week 3, you're gonna go all the way to failure, and then you're gonna take a deload where you're bringing that intensity back down to 2 to 3 reps in reserve. So now that we've gone through the size phase, we're gonna go into the size and strength phase. So remember, we're still increasing volume, so we're gonna keep that set scheme. So week 1, we'll do 3 sets. Week 2, we'll do 4 sets. Week 3, we'll do 5 sets. Week 4 will be a deload. We'll bring that back down to 2 sets. However, the rep scheme is gonna change because now we're trying to build size and strength. We wanna get a little bit closer to our 1 rep max. So in this phase of training, the rep scheme is gonna be from 5 to 10 reps. So we'll do 5 to 10 reps for week 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're also gonna keep that same reps in reserve scheme. So week 1, we'll do 2 to 3 reps in reserve. Week 2, we'll do 1 to 2 reps in reserve. Week 3, we'll do 1 to 2 reps in reserve with that final set being all the way to failure. Make sure you get a spotter. Then on the deload week, we'll bring that back down to 2 to 3 reps in reserve. That's gonna allow us to recover again from that tougher third week. So finally, we're gonna go into our strength building phase. So here it's gonna be a little bit different. Remember in our rep ranges video, we're discussing how if you're trying to get strong, you want to increase the intensity. However, with increases in intensity, fatigue starts to rise. So as the intensity goes up, the volume's gonna come down. So it's gonna be inverted from the way we did it before. So week 1, we'll do 5 sets. Week 2, we'll do 4 sets. Week 3, we'll do 3 sets. And then week 4, we're gonna bring that down all the way down back to those 2 sets. Now the rep ranges. With strength, we're gonna wanna hang out in the 3 to 5 rep range. So that's exactly what we're gonna do. Week 1, we'll do 5 reps. Week 2, we'll do 4 reps. Week 3, we'll do 3 reps. And then on that deload week, we're actually gonna bring that up back to 5 sets because that's gonna bring the intensity down as far as the weight you can use. So with the intensity, we're not gonna use the reps in reserve anymore because that model does not work anymore for the strength building phase. What we're gonna use is the rate of perceived exertion, or RPE. So RPE is basically at a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult was this set? So week 1, we'll do 7.5 out of 10. Week 2, we'll do 8 out of 10. Week 3, we're gonna do 9 out of 10. And then finally for week 4 of that deload, we're gonna bring it back down to 7.5 RPE. Now, once you've completed that deload week, you've done your 2 sets of 5 reps at RPE 7.5, your body should be really fresh when you get into the gym. For the next week, you're just gonna do another rep max test. You're gonna pick a weight that you couldn't do more than 5 to 10 reps of. You're gonna rock it out, do a set to failure, rack it up. Now you have a brand new max, and you should see some good gains in the chest as well. So altogether, the program is gonna look like this. You've got weeks 1 through 4 of building size, weeks 5 through 8 of building size and strength, and then you've got weeks 9 through 12 of really building that strength. And then week 13, you're gonna come in and test it out and see what you got out of it. Now, that program follows all of the principles. We've got progressive overload, we know our rep ranges, we've got fatigue management all built in there, so the fatigue doesn't hit us out of nowhere and injure us and we're out of the gym. This is gonna allow us to rinse, wash, and repeat for the long run. Now, this is just one of a million ways that you can implement these principles to make a program that increases size and strength. Now, everybody is individual, so some people will need to increase the volume, some people will need a little bit less volume. Now, you can use all of these principles to design your own program, one that fits you specifically. You can test the one that we just created out, see how well it works for you, and adjust as you go. And this is the best way to see the best results and get to know your body. As long as you are making sure that the volume increases or intensity increases, or possibly both, depending on what phase you're on, you're going to be golden. So that concludes it for our programming crash course. Stay tuned. Every week we're dropping a new video to get you all the tips, tricks, and advice you need to get as big and as strong as you need to get. And as always, you'll give me the inspiration to stay as big and as strong as I want to get. So if you are a Titan, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends so we can grow the Legion. If you're not a Titan, please don't press that subscribe button. We don't need nobody who's not a Titan, because we're trying to build the biggest and strongest community here on YouTube. So all my Titans, thank you for watching, and we out. Snakes get scraped off the bottom of my shoe. They saying,